Do you ever make one item and unknowingly it becomes your entire personality from that moment forward? I think I may have done that. Here we are, once again, friends, going to endeavor on making another corset. Yes, that's right. I made one and now I cannot stop. I must have another one, and this one will be black. My initial concern with making the black corset was my concern with anything dark in this household, and that is cat hair. That's right, friends, cat hair. I am the proud owner of two very fluffy, light-colored kitties. And let me tell you, their hair gets literally everywhere in my entire house. I comb them, I vacuum, I clean, and yet cat hair is just everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's not just like bigger cat hairs that are easier to notice. No, it's these insidious, wispy, tiny, fluffy little hairs that will like hang in the air. They're so light, they just hang in the air. They're everywhere. They get woven into the fibers of my clothing, and washing them and even lint rolling won't get them out. It's redonkulous. So anything I have that is dark colored, like the shirt that I am wearing today, is perpetually coated in a fine layer of wispy cat hairs. Like, I literally lint rolled this shirt before filming and it's got cat hair all over it. How? It's everywhere. I can't get rid of it. So anything I bring into this house is inevitably going to be coated with cat hair, and dark colored things are going to make it more obvious that they're coated in cat hair. So I had thought, first corset out, I will make it a light color. That way it won't be as blatantly obvious when it is covered in cat hair. However, we've got to be real about something, and that is black goes with everything. Like, even black things. Black is just a classic, cool color, and it goes with everything, dude. So inevitably, the beige colored corset is not going to go with as many outfits in my wardrobe as a black corset definitely would. Once I saw that the pattern worked and also that I really, really liked it, I knew that I would have to make another. It was fate. It was meant to be. We all knew this was going to happen. I am making a black corset. Now, I started this project a while back and have been working on it here and there when I had time since I finished my first corset, and I did not manage to film much of the making process. No big whoop, right? Because you saw the making process of the corset in the last video. But what we didn't really get to cover in that video was the boning process. I ran into a lot of challenges and a lot of frustrations in the first go round of making this corset, and now that I've worked out all of the kinks, it's way easier to make the second time. So I have decided to film the process of me assembling the hardware, including the boning and doing the finishings on the corset. That way you can get a little bit of a closer look at those aspects of the making of the corset, since you didn't get to see that the last time. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to add all of the hardware to the corset, and I'll give you a little bit of a better idea of what that process is like in case you are interested in making one yourself. I am awkward and terrible at transitions, so let's stop talking about this and start getting some sewing done. And now it's time for everyone's favorite chore, complicated or intricate sewing. I'm just kidding. Honestly, the most difficult part of this sewing job is just that I have to stretch my work in order to get to the row I am trying to reach. You can see me physically pulling up with my left hand so that the row is visible out from behind the busk piece. And then I am sewing the edge of the busk to some exposed remaining front or back loops. I cannot remember which right now. And that will cause the busk to be trapped in a little crochet package. That was a weird way of saying it, but hey, that is what you get with me. Now, the first time that I made the corset, I was unable to sew to the attachment points that are recommended in the pattern like I am doing in this footage here. But this time through, I was able to do it, and I realized that the intent of the pattern maker was to stretch the fabric out as thin as possible around the busk. That way it would not be impeding the corset busk hooks and pins when you are trying to put them in place to wear them. And that was something that I noticed on my other corset, was that, it's hard to get the hooks and pins in place sometimes around all of the fabric that the crochet creates. This time through though, I am older and wiser, and I was able to recognize the intent and do it appropriately this time through. And yeah, I was able to get it to the correct attachment points. I did have to stretch it quite a lot. Like, you can see me having to physically pull things back with my left hand as I was sewing, and having to clamp it in place further down the busk with some sewing clips, which are really just like some chip clips and stuff that I have repurposed from my kitchen. Whatever's clever, you know what I mean? So if you're planning on making this, my advice to you would be to, make sure you are hitting gauge with your hook size, and then leave your tension as loose as you can to still hit that gauge. Don't tighten up your tension to where all of your work is really rock hard, because you do want to have some stretch to it in order to hit these attachment points for the busk. If any of you do end up making a corset, I would love if you would tag me in your posts, or, send me a private message on Instagram with photos of your finished work. It would just be really cool to know that anybody else had actually made one of these as well. The person who wrote the pattern for Yarn Inspirations actually reached out to me on Instagram and told me that they were super excited to see that anybody had made this. They thought nobody was going to make one of these. So I would love if anybody else wants to join the Corset Club with me. Please do tag me if you post your stuff on Instagram, or, send me a DM with a picture. So here you can see I have finished sewing my busk, and I am just burying my tail in the work, which is hard enough already because the stitches on this now are taut. I am so proud of myself for making it work and hitting all the attachment points and getting my tension right to make this fit appropriately. I actually ended up getting a different busk on Amazon. I ordered a pack of 3, and these are black colored, whereas the other busks that I ordered from Wawak Sewing were white colored. And I just thought that the dark colored busk would work better with the dark colored yarn. Otherwise, you're going to see like really light colored metal gapping through all of the stitches on the busk. So I think that one did work out. It is a little bit longer than the other one. Instead of being just a 10-inch busk, it was like 10.6 inches. Anyway, what you can see me doing now is adding a single crochet border to either edge of this side of the corset. On the opposite side from the busk side, you will have your lacing, and to finish the lacing side, they have you fold over the edge and sew it together, which makes like a thicker border. When doing my single crochet border, it didn't really tell you where to stop or start it, and so I decided to start on the edge of the busk and then do my single crochets up to the edge of the lacing, and then vice versa on the opposite side. And that way I could sew the edges of my crochet into the sides of the busk or the sides of the lacing, which is what you are seeing me do right there. And that way it would make more of a continuous edge, and it kind of smooths out that rough transition. The next step of the process in finishing our corset is to add the boning. Now, you can choose to add as many bones as you want. The pattern calls for you to add 3 per side, which is 6 in total, and that is what you see in front of me here. And that is 4 7-inch bones and then 2 5-inch bones. Now, these are ones I ordered that were pre-cut with tips already attached from Wawak Sewing. And since then, I have ordered just a roll of boning that you can cut to appropriate lengths, and it comes with some little feet or edges that you can put on to cover up the, rough metal tips where you have cut the boning. That way I can make the bones as short or long as I want, because I did find that these are like a little too short in a couple of places. I could have made them longer. And what I am planning to do is go back and cut some more boning and add even more bones to this corset. For now though, we've got 6 bones in front of us, and that is what we are going to work with. So what you can see me doing here is crocheting around the spiral steel boning with some single crochets to wrap the boning in fabric essentially, and that will leave a little stitch edge along one side of our steel bones. It is a little bit of a struggle, I would say, working in this gauge with this specific yarn. It is a tubular yarn and it will catch on your hook and stretch at points. And so I think you can see me really struggling a couple of times with the yarn just getting caught on my crochet hook. Now it is time to take all of those bones we crocheted around in the previous step and attach those to our corset. So you'll want to make sure that you have the wrong side facing you when you do this, and then go around and decide where you would like to add more support. The ridges that are formed in the construction of this piece make the perfect bed for all of the little bones. And that's why I say you could choose to add as many or as few as you want to. But again, the pattern told me to go with 6, which is what I ordered for my corsets to start off with. As far as the instructions go, all they really tell you is to sew them in place, and they don't really tell you much as to how to do that other than, a basic description and image showing that you are attaching it to these little raised edges that are created in the construction. And what I opted to do was to sew across every few stitches to the next raised ridge on the opposite side of the bone to create a little bit of a boning channel, and that way they're going to stay more snugly in place inside the corset and not be liable to flop around and get misaligned against my body. So you can see that I will do like 2 or 3 stitches maybe from the bone to the little ridge that is closest to it, and then I'll do a cross bracing stitch all the way across the top of the bone to the little raised ridge on the opposite side. The amount of stitches you add to your bone is pretty arbitrary. It's just as many as it takes to get around the spiral steel boning and have it coated. So it's not going to necessarily line up 1-to-1 with the amount of stitches that you have done on the corset panel itself. So, don't stress about making it like a 1-to-1 deal. I just worried about getting it kind of sewn in place and being in there evenly and securely, if that makes sense. I think the little cross bracing stitches all the way across to the opposite side will really help to give the more of a sense of a boning channel in this corset and give it a little bit more stability over time. So once I've gotten to the opposite end of that boning channel I've created, I just fastened that off and then wove in my ends. And now you can see it's time for us to move on to doing the other 2 bones on this panel. I'll just pop the time lapse into a little bit more of an overdrive speed so that you can just get more of a sense of what this looks like as a process overall. Once I finish getting the rest of these bones sewn in place, it'll be time for you to see the final result. personally super stoked with the outcome of this project. Maybe it's just me, but anytime I follow a pattern to make something, the first time I make it is not always the best. Having the experience of making an item under your belt, you know what to expect, what the author is talking about when they are giving you certain instructions, and it makes it a lot easier to replicate the item as it was intended. The second time around making this was definitely a lot easier for me because I knew what was going to happen when I sewed in the hardware. I feel like I was able to sew the busk in a little bit better this time around. I did alter this pattern very slightly when I did the busk pin side, and I counted the stitches where it instructed you to place the busk pin through, and I skipped a stitch and did a chain one instead. That way there would be a little bit of a hole where the pin was supposed to go through, and I feel like that was helpful. I thought that might also leave a little bit more room around the pin to help the hook to get around it when you're trying to put on the corset. I feel like that was definitely a helpful alteration. One thing I am going to have to do a little bit better on and learn as I go is lacing this sucker up. I was able to find a tutorial to show me how to lace a corset properly instead of just lacing it all the way from top to bottom, which you can do, and that's fine. The lacing I did find has it set up to where you pull tight in the center and tighten it that way, which I have seen on historical examples and some historical costumers use in videos. So I do think this is a more traditional way to lace your corset. I am just not good at tightening these laces on my own. I can't see what's happening back there, and if I tighten it too much off of my body, I'm not going to be able to get these busk pins hooked in appropriately because I have terribly weak hands due to arthritis and hypermobility. So it's a learning curve. I am learning. And right now, though, I do feel like it's just not as tight at the tops and bottoms as it could be. I'm working blind on the back side of my body, so I can see why it was helpful to have somebody else with you when you were getting dressed wearing stuff like this, just because it is a lot more difficult to lace this up appropriately without being able to see what I'm doing. Overall, though, I really love it. So we can now add a second corset to my corset collection. I am sure there are going to be more. I did buy gray Bernat Maker as well when I bought the yarn for these corsets. Couldn't decide on the color, so I ordered 3 different colors, hoping that, worst case scenario, I would just have 3 different corsets. And that looks like it's going to be the trajectory that we are on. I am in the process of evolving my personal style to get a little bit more dressed up and make my life more whimsical. I feel like that's something I used to do a long time ago, and I got away from that in my adult years. And I would really like to, get back to that, to bring a sense of whimsy and excitement and imagination and creativity to my wardrobe and my daily life, because the world that we live in is increasingly bleak and scary and worrisome and makes me want to retreat into a hole and hide there forever. Instead, I'm going to be strong. I am going to try to just not let things deter me from continuing to be the person that I am and building the community around me that I would like to see in this world. So keep your chins up. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm here and I'm not giving up, and I encourage you to do the same. Okay, it's getting kind of bleak. I'm starting to get depressed again. I am trying to funnel all of this energy into, being creative and being productive rather than being stressy, messy, and depressy, because that is what I want to be doing right now. I don't feel like making content, but the world needs us. The world needs your creativity. The world needs your light. The world needs you and all of the things that you have to offer. I am always here for you, my crochet friends. If you're scared, if you're stressed, if you need help, if you just need somebody to talk to, I am here for you. Let's connect in the comments and build some community, because we are definitely going to need that support over the next 4 years. Okay, I'm going to go do a crochet project, eat some food, do some self-care, take care of me. I hope you will do the same and take care of yourself. I hope you've enjoyed this corset video. I thought it would be fun for those of you who are interested to see a little bit more in depth on the boning and hardware process, and how the, more technically difficult parts of this corset came together. I know I got a bit frustrated over the process in my last video and ended up not including the process of boning. So I wanted to show you guys what that was like in case you were interested in making this or replicating something similar on your own. If you enjoyed this little foray into crochet corsetry, then please give this video a like and consider subscribing, because I do upload crochet videos like this as well as tutorials every other Wednesday, and I love to make new crochet friends. Speaking of crochet friends, you can always find me on some version of social media. I am chronically online, and I am Graceface Creates on all of those platforms. You can find links to all of my socials down below in the video description. Now, I'm gonna go sit down and try not to dissociate too hard. Thanks so much for watching, crochet friends. I really appreciate you all being here, and I hope you have some happy crocheting in the next couple weeks. Appropriately, because you need offset. Am I standing in the right place? Let's check the shot. You gotta check your shot before you wreck your shot.